What is up, y'all? Manny Carrera, your real estate resource, and this is episode number 38 of Whiskey Wednesday podcast sessions, where we sit with entrepreneurs, influencers, movers, and shakers over a glass of some fine whiskey. Today, I'm going to be joined by Mercedes, the owner of Polish Artistry. Mercedes, cheers. How are you?
Cheers. Good. How are you doing, Manny?
Good, good. Thank you for having us. We're actually in Mercedes' salon, right?
Yes.
We're over here in Polish, which is right next door to my office. Literally, window is right here. I can see everyone coming in. It's so funny.
Yeah.
But cheers. Thank you
Cheers.
for being on.
Hello, neighbor.
Hello, neighbor. Yeah, to you. We are sipping on some whiskey as usual. Today we're going to be sipping on some Monkey Shoulder. We've actually drinking this before, I think with one of my best friends. But I really liked whiskey. Are you a whiskey drinker?
I can't say that I am.
No?
Mm-mm.
Are you a drinker at all?
I think it's a wonderful pastime for a
Yeah.
lot of people, but personally, it's not something that I do all the time.
That's cool. Well, thank you so much
A few times a year,
for
but
having a
today's a
beverage
special occasion.
on Whiskey Wednesday. Yeah, I appreciate it. So, kind of getting right into it, really excited to have you on. Obviously, we've been neighbors for some time. We just got to talking a couple weeks ago, and I found out that you're the owner. I've always seen you here super late. I'm always here late because my office is right here. But I see you just as late leaving and working. So it's really cool to see, you know, not only an owner, but somebody that's actually putting in the work. So before we get started, why don't we go ahead and just pass it over to you so you could go ahead and tell us a little bit about who Mercedes is, who you are and what you do.
Well, as far as working late, I think that's it's just sort of part of the relationship with the salon, and that's how all of this came to be. I've pretty much been living in the salon since 2005, but I
Nice.
first started in the salon in 2003, so pretty much life as I know it since the very
Yeah.
beginning, since the beginning of time.
That's awesome.
And yeah, I've been 100% behind the chair since I first started, and
Wow.
I absolutely love it. So this entire thing was just sort of organic. I can't
That's
say
awesome.
that this was like, you know, like, oh, I was working on Polish for 2 years before it opened.
Yeah.
No, I've always just been behind the chair, and I never wanted to take a break from that. And fortunately, you know, thank you to all my clients. What's up, everybody?
I actually know a lot of your clients.
Yeah.
Every time I'm like literally like, I wish we could get a camera angle, but I'm seeing everyone that walks in and I'm like, hey, that's Jesse. Hey, that's my client. Hey, that's, it's funny. You know a lot of people.
and El Paso's, I think that's part of the best part. One of my favorite parts about El Paso is just that there's such a strong sense of community. Like,
Right.
it's big enough that it's not like everyone, you know, there's only a handful of people and the
Right,
world never
right.
spins, but there's enough of us that we still know each other and
Yeah.
that one way or another we're connected. So
Yeah. El Paso's a little big city, I feel.
Yeah.
It's getting bigger and bigger by the moment. But that's awesome. So you've been in the industries since 2003, you said, right?
Yes, I started as an assistant at a salon, the salon that my mom went to when I was a kid, and
Right.
when I got my first haircuts, like my first salon
No way.
haircuts.
Is it still
That
there?
it is. So it's actually the Wild Hair, owned by Chris, who was a wonderful first mentor. He left a very powerful impact on me, and so I was there for about 4 years, and I didn't want to leave, but I did feel at that time that I needed to. I feel like
Right.
life called for it, and without a doubt, it was just time to make a change. And so when I left there, I went to another salon on Trowbridge. It's called Salon Sela, and my mentor there, her name is Kathy. She is the one who really put the vision in me to want more. I think I would have been a happy hairstylist behind the chair. Just, you know, I mean, it's life as I know it, and I've been happy that way, but she was the one who really pushed me to see beyond life as I know it and to have faith that we're all designed to grow. There's
Right.
always more to us than, you know, just this moment. And she's just a wonderful,
That's
wonderful,
awesome.
wonderful person. So I was there for about 10 years. And it was only a 4-month span from when I left Salon Sela to being at Polish. And so this was just a series of just happening coincidence where it just worked out well for everybody. And so it's close to home. This is actually my neighborhood. And
That's awesome.
so yeah, I mean, I'm close to my kids who, if all of my clients, everyone already knows them,
Yeah.
as they're always in here with me.
Or out. Well, I always see
Or
them
out, yeah, they like to play outside. They like
It's a quiet
salon
little
kids.
shopping center, huh?
Yeah. Well, and their offices. That's another one of the features of this area that I really, really like. I think having, like a prime space on Zaragoza is great, but for salon spaces, sometimes, and most commercial spaces, I think, face the same challenges of like parking, for instance.
Yeah.
And here, it's just so
There's a ton.
practical. Yeah, it's very accessible from
Right.
Zaragoza, but I mean, you can just pull right up, and not only that, but there's a beautiful garden outside, and all
we
the
have a little
plants
view,
of
right?
that.
We're a little elevated.
If you guys could see what we're looking
Yeah.
at right now, the
It's really
sun's
cool.
setting behind the El Paso mountain skyline, and it's
You got
just
like a orange blue
beautiful.
haze.
yeah.
El Paso has some of the prettiest sunsets. I lived out in
Absolutely.
Florida, in Miami, for about 4 years, and they had beautiful sunsets, like gorgeous. But
I hear
coming
the
back to
sunsets
Texas,
behind you.
yeah,
in Miami. How's
yeah,
that?
yeah, they're even more beautiful.
Yeah.
Especially when you're seeing, the city behind you, just black shadow and orange, yellow, pink. It's amazing. But I think there's nothing like this mountain view that we have and the sunsets that we get to. So
El
I love El
Paso's like
Paso.
Pleasantville. To me,
Yeah.
the weather's almost always beautiful, and when it's a little bit rough, it like brings us all together. Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, what did you think about that? And everyone talks
yeah,
about
yeah.
it. It's
Did
just
you
great.
see that it rained for 10 minutes? It was
Yeah,
crazy.
and it is like that. It's like
yeah.
mood swings.
It rains,
Yeah.
it snows, it rains all in one
Completely
day.
unpredictable.
Right? That's funny. Are you born and raised in El Paso?
I am from El Paso. I don't know any other city. I've never lived anywhere else.
That's awesome.
But even when I've traveled to other cities, while I can appreciate their, all the features of different places, I always do feel a little bit homesick.
Really?
I think I could stay in El Paso and never see, like, I'm not one of those people who really like longs for another place. Like, I can't
Yeah.
say like, I have visions of, I can't wait to get to. No, I'm like, you know what? Let's go for a drive.
Yeah.
And then we do, and we just listen to music, and
It's a
because the
beautiful
weather's so
city.
nice,
Yeah.
just go up to the mountain.
You go on I-10, just period, and you get a view.
Well, at night, it's kind of like being by the ocean of just light, because
Yeah.
it's so densely populated. As far as the eye can see, I mean, off
Especially
into the
out towards
horizon, it's
Mexico,
just water.
Chihuahua, yeah.
It's like an ocean of lights. It's not water, but it's like an ocean of light. It's completely lovely. I love it.
Yeah.
And then another thing that I love about El Paso is that in Juarez, there's the thing on the mountain that says, like, read the Bible, it's the
Yeah,
truth. And on our side, we have a star that's illuminated at night. And if there were a way for Mexico and the United States to connect, it would be there. It's like they're holding
Shaking
hands,
hands,
like
yeah.
they're saying, this is the message, and they're saying, we approve.
That's cool, yeah.
I love
Yeah,
it. That's
our-
what it seems like to me.
Yeah, our star is just amazing too.
It's
I think
absolutely-
there's just nothing like our city too. I think a lot of people, especially dealing in real estate, I get a lot of people from out of town, especially military, and they're staying. They're not going back home. It's affordable here for homes, and it's a really nice city. Everyone's friendly. Everyone minds their business, and there's a lot to do here. The
There's a
food's
lot to do
amazing,
here,
right?
yeah.
We're gonna talk about food a little later too.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited now.
Yeah, I am. Well, but speaking on military, that's another thing here. There's so much diversity. You're always meeting
Yeah.
people from different backgrounds,
Right.
and just with so many different views. I
Yeah.
mean, there's people who are new to the military. There's people who are a little bit more who've been
Right.
there and closer to retirement and things like that. And I think that they have a very unique lifestyle and insight because of their lifestyle to those of us who maybe aren't. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
even have family that's military. Oh, well, like I have like cousins who are married into military,
Right.
but directly, I can't say that
Yeah.
I know the life.
Right. Yeah, me neither, but El Paso is definitely a military city as well. Fort Bliss is huge. So kind of going back to, you getting started, you started 2003, you had a couple mentors, right? So as far as, somebody trying to get started, in the same footsteps as you, do you think getting a mentor is necessary, or do you think that that's something that is not so much needed?
I think that, of course, for every individual it's different.
Right.
But I think one of the most important things, if you really want to have a fruitful career, is to develop a relationship with a salon atmosphere. Because once you're behind the chair, I feel like you draw clients who you have things in common with. And
Right.
so it's a really on the career side of it, it's a wonderful way to spend your days. It's kind of like the social grounds, you know what I mean? That's
kind of therapeutic too, right?
to everybody, yeah. It's a lot of exchange of thoughts and
Yeah.
views, and it's just great. It's
I know
wonderful.
as you know, I've been going to my barber for like the last 10 years, like since I was in high school,
And so you trust him, right?
yeah, I
'Cause
trust
he knows you.
trust her, and,
her
and she
trust
knows
her.
every little dirty secret about me too. So like, I can't go anywhere else. She's gonna tell me.
Is that so?
No, I'm just
Is
kidding.
that so?
No, Melissa, she's cool. But
Yeah.
I definitely know what you mean. It is a kind of therapeutic, even for me, to kind of go get a hot towel, talk a little bit about my weekend problems, issues, you know, things like that. It's really fun. I think it's therapeutic for every single person. I think
Yeah.
salons and barbershops are kind of fun.
Yeah,
Like Chuck E.
and
Cheese
it
is for
should
adults.
be. I feel like, and I mean, maybe I'm just speaking El Paso flavor, but here there's so many restaurants that you can go to, and they're pretty unique. Like they're different.
Yeah.
Like you know when you're in certain staples. Yeah. So.
We got a little visitor in the back.
Okay, nice.
Do I put my headphones?
I'm not sure.
One, action.
Wait, go back.
Oh.
Do it again. Go for it.
3, 2, 1, action.
So going back to 2003, you had your first mentor, Jake? Chris, I'm sorry. Chris. Sorry, Chris. And then-
My first colorist mentor was Rose Sanchez. She was my instructor. And at the same time, I was working with Chris Sanchez, the owner of Wild Hair. And from there, I went on to Kathy and Peter.
Kathy, yeah. So you've had your share of mentors, right? In the learning phases of you kind of starting in the industry. Do you feel like that's something that, you know, somebody that is coming into industry needs or should look into?
I think anybody who wants to enter the industry does need to find a salon atmosphere that suits their personality and their vision as far as how they see themselves, how they
Right.
view themselves. I feel like there's so many different styles out
Right.
there that yeah, it's just really important to find a place where you feel like, yeah, this is my jam, like this is where I belong, you know?
Yeah.
And I do, I've kind of always wanted to have that space, so having it now has been really, really great.
That's awesome.
I think it should be like a staple to every place,
Yeah.
like their feel, you know?
Yeah, I think with any brand or business, it's really about creating that culture and that atmosphere for people to come in and enjoy the space. You know, it has to be enjoyable. Obviously, somebody's not going to be coming in if it's a miserable experience. So
Absolutely.
creating that atmosphere, I think, is super important too. How or what steps do you have to take in order to create that atmosphere? Because I think that it's something that doesn't just come overnight, right? It's something that you kind of have to build.
Well, that's why I feel like my relationship to the salon being that I wish I could say that I'm just, you know, I always dreamt of being an entrepreneur. That's really not the case. I've always dreamt of growing as a hair artist, and I feel like I grew so much behind the chair that it evolved into this. You know,
Right.
so this was actually a nail salon before, but being that it's so close to my life, everything really, really important to me, my kids, you know, home, it just felt natural that the
Right.
salon should be close, and it is. So now my entire life is within like a 2-mile radius.
That's
And
awesome. So you don't pay anything for gas, huh?
almost nothing.
That's
So no
awesome.
commuting anymore. Although it's a nice drive, and I was always
Yeah.
caught up on podcasts and audiobooks. Now I'm just like, and I'm
Yeah,
here.
you
so.
did. Like walking everywhere, huh?
I could, maybe in the future.
That's awesome. That's cool. So everyone definitely, you know, should maybe go after a mentor. I feel like even in real estate too, that's something that I went after. I paid somebody to teach me, and I learned as much as I could from that person, and then went on my own to learn as much as I could on my own. But I think I needed that little head start because it saved me a lot of errors and a lot of time wasted that I could have maybe lost a lot more money and clients and business, you know? So
I do think that there's sort of an organic climate to things like that.
Mm.
I know, I mean, personally speaking, through my own experience, it's just, I have gone through those seasons of my life where I'm undergoing so much change, so much I'm evolving so much as an individual that I do start to disconnect with some of my clients. But the same way, I mean, if my client's lifestyle changes and something draws them away, I may not see them for a year, 2 years sometimes, and then they come back. And it's like one of those things where, hey, and I've changed and you've changed, and then we get to redevelop that relationship.
Right.
But I mean, speaking in the salon sense, that was something that I had to experience when I got the space.
Right.
Because as an independent contractor, I always rented my station. And part of renting the station is that we view it as like, okay, well, it's really just a place for me to work that has certain amenities, you know, as a hairstylist.
You got everything.
Yeah,
You got
like, you know,
electricity.
towels and you know, back bar and things like that. There's a lot of places that don't. And one of the things that I always wanted to create was an atmosphere that would be ideal for the creator.
Right.
That I felt in some areas I had, but I wanted to create here just the ideal working space for anybody who's got a creative vision and sometimes doesn't really think about all the little everything else that you need, because that was one of my struggles along the way. I even feel like it's part of the reason why it took me so long, because I would be so caught up in like creative vision that I would have to step away to get all the organization done.
Right.
And here, my vision for the stylist would be that they come in, they have their clients, and I try to provide everything. And it's only because it's that sense of community. It's pretty much everything that I work with available to everybody in the space.
Right.
And so, we also try to make it a really cool environment for our clients, and we want it to be a space where, you know, they kind of feel away from the world. They enter this bubble, and it's just...
You don't feel like you're in a shopping center right now. I honestly, like when the lighting was over there, we were playing with different locations here. I felt like we were in a lounge, like that sort of. So it's really cool atmosphere that you have created.
During the day, I would say it feels like a lounge, but it does depend on what time of day and what days of the week, because on the weekends when we're slammed, it's not the same sensible, like, oh, I'm here to chill. It's a little bit more exciting. The clients are talking to each other. We're all talking. It's Saturday. There's wine, you know, sometimes champagne going around, and we always have...
and I'm right next door.
During the day, we have refreshments, so you're welcome to come in. So, yeah, we're always here, and...
That's cool.
It's a cool spot.
That's awesome. Talk to me about some of your clients. Who are your clients?
My clients are women a lot like myself. A lot of visionaries, just women who have lived they have their families, they have their careers. It's not just one or the other. So it is, there's a lot of that. And then I also see a lot of gentlemen. I do have a handful of entrepreneurs too who have, you know, also guided me and giving me advice along the way. So awesome. I have both men and women who are just phenomenal. I want to say that they have been the most transformative power behind me. Absolutely. The driving force. They're just everything to me.
That's awesome. I think clients at the end of the day are everything, right? There's a lot of people that don't really care so much about the client, and their objectives may be a lot different and not so aligned with what the client wants. And I think that that's a really quick way for your business to fail. Right? So how important is reputation to you, you know, building this business, building this brand?
To me, on a very human level, I've experienced witnessing other people when they go through their transformations, and I love to kind of see the storm of it all. You know, it's just really intense, and I think that when I was living it and everything, I was really grateful. I had a lot of support, people walking me back to, you know, the word and speaking sense into me, because I think really when you're entering your next level, there's so much of the unknown, where maybe in an area where you don't have as much experience and you just kind of, you know, in your early beginnings. And I still definitely feel that I'm just at the beginning of a very long journey. So it's very exciting. But yeah, I think that as far as like reputation, I feel like that should be part of what what people know about us.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you see someone kind of going through something and you don't understand it because you don't see the full picture. But people want to see you working hard. People want to see you getting better, especially, everyone who's been with me for so long, who's been with me since, before my kids, during my pregnancies, helping me get my home and things like that.
Yeah.
So, helping me get the salon and this space is absolutely for my clients. So, it's just part of it. It's absolutely vital. I think it's
That's
very,
awesome.
very important.
That's awesome. What would you say are some of the biggest struggles that you maybe have encountered in opening up your own business? Because sometimes I feel like a lot of people maybe have different expectations, and that's why a lot of different businesses fail. But you have proven already with time that you're here.
Well, I kind of feel like nothing is ever promised. Nothing. And I think that when you're working towards the vision that God gave you, everyone has their own. I think when you have your vision, and you hold true to your code of ethics and things like that, we all have trials and tribulations, but ultimately what's for you will find you. And that I feel like that's why I would not have chosen a nail salon. Let me just say that.
Yeah.
So in that sense, but this space is so ideal. It's just, it's a really, really great space. And so I trust that. I trust the vision. And so I've always wanted to cultivate my skills to a level that I can share it with other stylists. And I think, during that time and reading and studying and everything, I love philosophy. And one of the philosophies that I feel has proved to be very true is that nothing good comes from your comfort zone. And I feel like I went so full-fledged, since since a couple years back, into that mode that I got so used to I'm working hard. The essence of getting uncomfortable, and trying to learn new things and, just really exploring everything. That now sometimes I don't know how to, now that everything's kind of been seen, there's not as much change. I went through a lot of change very quickly over the past few years.
Right.
Now it's more about, finding the areas in which to refine, where we need to make adjustments, where we need to tweak. But because I'm so used to being behind the chair all the time, and then going home to being, 100% mom, that it's that, adjustment of the routine and kind of learning the time management side of it has probably been one of the greater challenges.
Chaos, and then now it's like.
Well, and for me, it's natural. But I think for anybody entering that, and just, me being in the middle of it, I think it can be a little bit, like to other people, I think it might be a little bit uncomfortable at times. But I've seen the transformation that happens within people. And it's not always just, it's a hair salon, so you come in and you change, the way you see yourself. No one comes in saying, I want to, well, actually no, some people do. And they're like, I don't want anyone to notice that I got a haircut. I need the haircut, but I want it to look like I didn't get a haircut.
Yeah.
That exists too. But other people come in wanting change, and so that's one thing. But the internal changes are the ones that are being reflected when we change the outside. It's everything that sometimes you're going through something. It could be, anything. Or sometimes just like milestones, what I consider to be milestones, when you've turned the chapter in any area of your life, and you just kind of want to say from this point forward. And maybe it can be a very personal thing that you don't share, but the simple fact that, it's the person who's going through it that's the one who's, changing. That's what, it's my favorite part about what I do, and it changes me.
That's awesome.
So
I actually
it
get
changes
that,
them, it
so
changes me.
that's really deep. No, it's really cool that I think you are giving people something more than just a haircut. Because I've had it too, I've gone through maybe a breakup, and I'm just out of it for 2 weeks, I look, super funky up here, and I go get a haircut, and I'm just like, whoa. You know, like,
Yeah.
I'm good back.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think it's so healthy to go through that
Yeah.
though. Like when something happens, to let yourself kind of feel it and go through everything that happens in your mind, because it does. Sometimes it's just like everything is up in the air and you kind of have to, you know, find yourself again.
Yeah.
That when you do kind of come out of it, you're like, damn, I was a mess. Like,
Yeah, for
excuse me
sure.
while I put myself back together,
For
you know?
sure. I think, and being uncomfortable, really, there's no other equation that equals this but growth. Like, when you're uncomfortable, that's one of the main opportunities that you have to grow. Every time that I could think back, like even moving back from Miami, to El Paso, I put everything on the line because I just got my real estate license over here. I was like, I'm gonna do it. Like, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna go really, really hard, like really, really fast. And making that decision, I was good, exciting, terrified. Like, I was like, let's do it. Like, hurry.
I think when life gets turbulent, maybe in an area where you weren't expecting it, or where it was just maybe not the most pleasant
Right.
feeling, I think that's one of the best ways to kind of
Yeah.
deal with it. Say, you know what, hell no, I'm going to turn this into something good, and you focus on something productive and, you know, hurt nobody kind of thing,
Yeah.
and then you do your thing. Like, I think it's really great.
That's awesome. So, being uncomfortable, walk me through, you know, what were you thinking going through and checking out the spot and finding it and seeing that it's a nail salon and deciding, I'm going to run this and I'm going to create my own thing?
Well, I always, I want to say that it's because of the way that I grew up, where you have to be resourceful.
Right.
You know, if you're dealt a certain hand and you choose to say like, all right, let's play, let's do this, then you're gonna have to be a little bit. It might be uncomfortable. It might be a
Right.
little bit of a challenge, but those are the areas where you're gonna grow.
Right.
And I saw that here, and I feel like the entire space has transformed. Unfortunately, I did have a very big blind spot at the time, where I just wasn't considering certain things because
Right.
I lacked the experience. And so I also think that pacing yourself is very important.
That's
I
awesome.
think that when everything happens really quick, it makes people kind of like, whoa, you know, and
Right.
because to them it's just happening. To the person doing it, it's cause and effect.
Yeah.
But to anybody who's not subject to, you know, the
The
foundation
actual
part, the
behind the
doing
scenes,
part,
yeah.
is just experiencing the change and maybe doesn't have the time to adjust because they don't know what to expect.
Mhm.
And so in terms of being uncomfortable, I kind of think that it's maybe not detrimental, but yeah, I mean, it definitely is it can be jolting for
Yeah.
sure.
That's insane. What would you say, kind of going into, you know, your craft, what is one of the toughest cuts for you to do? If that, is there a tough cut?
Yeah, for sure. There's so many areas that it's not always just cutting, it's not always just styling. I mean, really, what we do, it has elements of design in visual geometric realms and in visual color laws that can, I mean, we're all subject to the same color laws, so you have to find something that you know, the product is true to what it says, that it's going to perform the way it does. And so and not only that, but then the suitability part, where it has to be right for the person.
Right.
Sometimes as a hairdresser, you know, we'll go to hair shows and we'll get like really, really excited, and we're like, oh my god, I saw this thing,
Right.
it's gonna be so cool, and we get so excited to do it that if we're putting it on somebody who maybe it looks awesome on, but it's not their personality, even if it looks amazing, they're not gonna like it. And ultimately, we're here to make people happy.
Right.
So we're not in the business of like, oh, you know what, I'm just gonna do something really crazy for you.
Yeah.
It should
You want change?
reflect the
Check
client,
this out.
right? There you go, avant-garde. Oh, that's right, you have to go to work tomorrow. You know,
Yeah.
like,
I can't change this right now.
yeah. I'm like, well, no, yeah, I think that's one of the challenges is, okay, like, all right, we have to do all that, and at a daily pace. At a daily
Right.
pace, it's like we have to look at, you know, face structure, we have to look at skin tones and colors, and then like the way they dress. Do they always dress the way they're here? Because sometimes they're professional wear during the week, but they're like a Saturday person, we see a completely different person on Saturday than they are Monday through Friday. And we have to
This is
consider those things.
intense. I didn't know y'all think about this.
So, welcome to Hairdresser
We just go and
Land.
sit on the chair and.
But that's why I think that's why it's called like hairdresser. I think that's where the term hairdresser comes
Yeah.
from. And there's people who are like, because there's a lot of dudes in the industry, like guys who are like, but they're visionaries also.
Right.
And so I think the term hairdresser isn't like a beautician. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It kind of has a different thing, but it's like dressing the hair, like it's
Right.
like tailor made.
That's awesome. That's crazy. This is intense. This is a lot deeper than I thought.
Yeah,
That's
well,
crazy.
that's
So
it.
talk to me. We're behind a nice little backdrop that took us a little while to set up, right?
Yeah, we're trying to finish it.
We're trying to make sure that you guys could repolish. But talk to me about some of the products that you offer here. I see there's a ton of stuff that you guys offer here in store for your clients. So talk to me about some of these partnerships.
Well, I've always been a Joico educator. I was fortunate enough to have my instructor from the get-go. She was a colorist from the heart. She was really hard on us. At first it was like a, like drill sergeant, but it was cool because she really put in a strong foundation in us. And so we had Joico back in the day. This was like 16 years back when I first started beauty school. My half-life. After trying different things, because of course when you first leave school, you're like, what do they know? You just
Yeah.
feel so like, I'm licensed now, I'm gonna do what I
Yeah,
want.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, check
And
this
then
out.
you start experimenting with different things, and I think there's always that like sense of curiosity of like, hey, well, I heard good things about that, and I heard
Right.
this, and whatever. And so along the way, I have experimented with Schwarzkopf, Wella, Redken, Kuhn, Electra. I mean, just a lot of different color lines.
So
and
is this something that you guys literally have to do your own research on to know
it's
kind of
part
product
of
knowledge?
It is. Well, I kind of feel like it's like a working daily thing. It's like finding your perfect set of shears. It's not always your first set of shears that you're like, oh, I just got the right ones from the get-go. You really do have to find something that for different things is like the right shear.
Right.
And in my world, it's color. And so I've always gone back to Joico because it's what I've always loved. It's what I know the color, the Joico color line, like the back of my hand,
Right.
literally. And so, and they're always putting new technology into the products. So that's why I've always been with Joico. I started educating with them in 2007. And I was with them for 4 years, but along the way I had my little ones in 2009 and 2010. And so at that point, I just really wanted to focus on behind the chair because I wanted to evolve. I think sometimes when we're also just doing a lot of education out there, you kind of start seeing the thing as like just things to speak on. But I feel like being behind the chair all the time keeps the knife sharp. And
Right.
that's going to be your best tool, is just all the practice that it takes to really develop your skill. And so, so in the past year, I've started up again as an advisor with Joico, and I'm really glad because there has been a revolution in the past, like so many years, like in the past few years, like maybe like 6 years, when like Brazilian Blowout hit the scene.
He had a
Before that,
Brazilian blowout for them.
yeah, did you?
It was really awesome.
Yeah, was your hair curly?
Sosa-
Or was it like frizzy? What was that?
Sosa was rocking some crazy stuff.
Oh yeah, it's very popular. I do have guys who are like, oh, I have curly hair,
Oh,
and
really?
it doesn't do certain things. So
My hair is wild sometimes. Like,
it?
I don't even know what to do with my hair sometimes. Like, especially with one gust of wind, it's just like.
it's
funny.
like that sometimes. You need
Yeah.
to find the right product.
Yeah, true.
On the product, really quick, you also, we're kind of like at a cool place because I've always had Joico for a really, really long time. But in more recent times, like the new movement is I have a lot of people who are asking for less technology. They want it to be as natural and organic as possible.
True.
And so that's the new thing right now. That's the baby. That's like this other side where we're kind of like experimenting.
Do you see your industry leaning a lot more towards the organic, natural side in the future, or do you see it still continuing with more of the technological
I
side
think
of it?
like anything, it's a trend that comes and goes.
Mhm.
It's not the first time that people have gone through that, but I think that what I've seen, because I've been in the industry for 16 years, is that sometimes it's very much about the person and health, and I'm putting these products and how is it going to affect me. And then the flip side of that I think is probably going to be the next shift, or we're going to go back to that.
Right.
So I don't know if it's back or forth, but that's the trend.
This is a little circle.
Yeah, yeah, the revolution. Joico is like on they're very environment friendly. The way that the products are packaged, it has both recycled material and new material, but it's the way that it goes back into the earth and things
Right.
like that in the recycling programs, and then the way that what Joico does is that for every set number, they plant trees and things like that,
Oh,
so
awesome.
that, and then the carbon monoxide from the products comes, like that's how that's kind of,
That's their.
they're very environment
Yeah,
friendly.
that's cool.
And so, but they've also always had an ammonia-free color and very, very low in peroxide, non-toxic. I mean, they've had that since I first
Have
started.
you had any products that have really damaged somebody's hair, kind of experimenting, or
Yeah.
What is that experience like?
So, before there was Brazilian blowout, there was just relaxers. And relaxers, in essence, are like putting drain cleaner on somebody's hair and then, trying to comb it to break all the bonds.
All the hair.
And then, and it does that. I mean, if you've ever seen what it does, sure, it'll make it straight, but it does not make it smoother. I mean, it depends. There's some good ones out
Drain
there.
cleaner.
Yeah, drain cleaner. It's
People
the
do
same
this?
thing. Yeah, it used to be. That was like the only thing. And they were making serious advancements. But then Brazilian blowout came out, and the difference between the old technology was that relaxers would go into the hair, break down all the bonds. We would have to neutralize in the new shape and then try to restructure the bonds in a more straight shape. And the outside,
scientific.
Brazilian blowout works from the outside. It works from the surface of the hair. So it's like putting a keratin sleeve over the surface of the hair so that the cuticle, which looks like shingles on a roof, it's completely smooth. You don't get the same kind of frizz. It locks in moisture. It locks in your color. It's like putting
This is a
long-term
Brazilian
sunscreen. Yeah, but no
What
one
does that
had
look like?
considered that. The Brazilian blowout? Well, no, there's different ways to do it. It's a smoothing treatment. It's a smoothing
Okay.
treatment. And even on that, now there's so many variations, but they were the innovators. They were the first
Really?
ones to do it, and now there's people who are, trying to make improvements on that one. But Brazilian blowout and Olaplex changed the game entirely. Before that, it was all about making the size of the molecules really, really small. The molecular weight and size of keratin needed to be below like 2,500 to even penetrate the hair without heat and actually, become a part of the hair.
This is.
Now, the technology is more about how it's more like a lacquer that goes over the surface of the hair, and how how long it holds, and how simple it is to apply, and the longevity. And so
And
yeah,
these are-
so
these are
in
some of the
March,
comparisons.
Joico launched Defy Damage, which is a combination of the two, and I love it. And it smells like it smells like heaven.
Is that
I love
your-
how my
is that
hair
your-
feels. I
that's
can't
your
keep it
top
on the
pick right
shelves.
now?
He knows the person who sells it to us is like, it's gonna be in any minute. I'm like, dude, everyone's waiting for it. We've been out for a month. Everyone's out of shampoo.
Really?
So yeah, but it's really good stuff. I mean, I'm pretty sure you don't blow dry and curl your hair all the time. For
I
us
don't.
girls, we
I
have
gotta
to.
tell. Just 5 minutes. I'm out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Air
Everyone
dry.
has a different
Yeah.
vision.
I know.
I need some time, and I need a minute
Really?
to get ready. Yeah.
I know. We walked in.
I know. Sorry.
We walked in on you.
You're right
Just
here.
kidding. So as far as the products, you have a ton of products here. Your partnership with
With Joico.
Joico. That's awesome. So you guys have a little variety of everything for the organic side and the technological side. As far as your services, what type of services, services can somebody get here at Polish Artistry?
Well, that'll vary from time to time depending on the artist, the resident artist who's in at the minute. Right now, we really just have colorists on hand. I speak for myself because I'm the permanent resident. A lot of hairstyling, a lot of hair coloring, hair cutting. As far as hair cutting, the only reason that what we do is different from, let's say, a barber is that I also do scissor over comb. And the nature of a scissor over comb haircut is very different than like a clipper cut. Do I do clipper cuts? Yes. But I do think that a scissor over comb haircut is a very satisfying skill to have. And it is sort of like a level of refinement that one should strive to keep sharp. And so I know...
Is that more of a traditional...
It's a
stylist?
foundational thing.
Whoa.
That's why it's a foundational thing. The shear, I mean, hair has many lengths, but with the shear, you can get as close to the scalp as the curvature of the shear allows. But unless you know how to maneuver it, you're going to cut somebody, or you're not going to be able to do it, or you're going to get chop marks. And so when you do work on doing that, it's
a skill.
yeah, it's something that you kind of feel like as a hairdresser, when you reach that pinnacle moment where you're like, ta-da, I got this. And then you lose that skill, you realize why it's so important to continue to practice that and to also preserve that side of your
Right.
clientele. And so that's something that I'd like to share with the next generation, because I do think that with time, core values change, and it's really, really important that we maintain a standard, and not even just like in a salon level. I'm talking in an industry level, and like as a city, as our country, and things like that. Because whether we realize it or not, all of us are representing everywhere that we're
Right.
from. So I think, yeah, I mean, at least I speak for myself. I would like to share that and kind of, bring the next generation up.
Yeah,
That's something
that's
that I
awesome.
really hope for.
That's awesome. So speaking of the next generation, what does it take to become, a stylist? As far as schooling, I know there's obviously some certifications or schooling that you have to go through.
Well, we're also in a really unique time because across the country, there's different states that are deregulating the industry, which
Oh.
means that they're not requiring licenses. And I can see why. I think because of the internet, I think because of social media, and just the nature of the industry has changed so much that a lot of people are getting lots of free education on techniques
Right.
and formulas online that doesn't
Kinda
it
making it an
has a
open playing
value.
field.
Yeah, it has a value, but it's completely there's no what do you
Regulation.
call it? There's no standard in a sense.
Right.
It's kind of like anyone, no matter
Anyone
what
can go to
they-
Sally's,
yeah,
pick up
and
some
say-
stuff, and do some
and-
stuff soon else.
I mean, that drives our industry too, because once you figure it out, like I could watch someone make like a badass cake with like
Tutorial.
5 tiers
Yeah.
and like make whatever like fondant thing. But can I do that every time? No.
It
And
looks
do I
easy,
even want to
right?
do
It
it?
looks
Yeah.
easy, yeah.
Sometimes, like, could I do my own pedicure? Yeah, I could probably do my own pedicure, but I don't want to.
Right.
I want to go sit down and have them offer me a drink and enjoy the massage chair while I'm getting it, and then walk out and have that moment of relaxation. That's the difference
Right.
in any industry.
Right.
So, as far as hairdressers and it being deregulated and education and things like that, I do think that licensing is important, because here we're dealing with so many people that one of the things that our continuing education, on a state level that it's regulated is sanitation.
Right.
And sanitation is super important. I mean, I have
For
kids.
anything, restaurants,
Yeah,
meals.
but I mean, I think we worry a
Realtor.
lot. Is it
Yeah, I have
sanitation?
to, I get the sanitation.
Hey, you're like, oh, there's cockroaches at a house. This house
Oh,
is
I've been
gonna...
into some really disgusting
Yeah,
houses.
when we were
I've seen
shopping
some
it out,
stuff.
we saw some stuff.
Yeah, I've seen some scary stuff. I see some ugly stuff. I've almost thrown up.
Really?
Yeah, I've
Why
seen
are they,
a little bit of
why don't they
everything.
Prepare.
I don't know. That's what makes it fun, though.
Yeah.
It's different.
So in this industry, I'm like, well, having kids, like school-age kids, they yeah, I mean, they're kind of like, you don't want them to get anything. You kind of, you already feel like they're, whatever, if, anything happens to them, they're going to go out and, like, all the kids, and then, like, the zombies are going to come out, like, you think that. And so, Yeah, I think it's really important. I think sanitation is really, really important. But everything else, I think there's just a handful of like magical unicorns who just have their gift, and those are the ones that are game changers. They're the ones who just come up with the next thing, and that, you know, that's always really exciting to see, to
You
witness
always wanna
somebody
be
doing
ahead.
it. Yeah.
You want people to be chasing you, not you chase.
Well, and change is fun.
Yeah.
Change is the adventure.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it's
different.
exciting.
Yeah, I love change. I think with change comes so much positivity, so much good things, and lessons too. Because I think everything, even failures in your mentality, could be a failure, but it's really just lessons and you kind of improving yourself little by little. You know, with every little mistake that you think you're doing, it's really just a lesson or a slap in the hand. It's like you, I'm sure you had your share of
I'm
big
still
lessons,
getting up.
right?
I'm still in the beginning of, like I said, what I see it to be like a new thing. And I think that it only happened because I felt that I had mastered so many other areas
Right.
in my life. And so this is, yeah, it's very challenging. It's very challenging to kind of, you know, evolve in that sense.
Right.
But change is good.
Yeah,
So,
changes.
Yeah, bring
changes
it on.
really good. So, a quick tip for some of our viewers: how can somebody keep their hair healthy? What are some tips that somebody can take to keep their hair super healthy?
Listen to your hair. If when you're styling it, it's not responding, give it some love. If it
Give some
needs, a lot of people
Just some-
don't put serum in it, or a lot of people will go, excuse my language, they'll like go ape shit on the heat, and they're like blow drying
Yeah.
and flat ironing and like really
It's
tight
all
ponytails,
crispy.
and they have, and I mean, but I mean everything's a look, you know. I told you
Right.
like I kind of like to have a grungy look, like I haven't washed my hair like in 3 days, and that's part of my
Yeah,
look.
yeah.
Sometimes. But I mean, I think that's part of it. It's
Right.
being able to do that. But as far as keeping the hair healthy, I mean, healthy is an opinion and subject to everybody.
That's
Everyone's
exactly what I
like,
was gonna ask you. What is healthy?
yeah. Well, I mean, to some people, it's like
I feel like
silky
my hair is-
smooth.
Healthy? Is it?
You have very nice hair, Manny.
Yeah.
I think what's cool about your hair is that like you have a signature. Like
I
there's
have
like a
this
Manny
little-
haircut.
I have this little thing.
I don't know how
that-
long you've had this haircut, but I
I've had it-
associate this haircut with you.
Yeah, I've had it for like 4 years, 5
Yeah?
years. I got it in Miami. A Puerto Rican gave it to me.
Oh.
I sat down on the chair and I was like, whoa! I was like, hey, I like it.
That's
We'll
good.
keep it.
That's a nice hairstyle.
That's awesome. So, talk to me about the future. What's next for?
You know what? It's honestly all in. It's all a work in progress, and so I encounter a lot of discovery on a daily basis, and I just adjust as I go. I'm
Right.
always seeking to make improvements, and I'm open to comments and suggestions. So they're always welcome. But in that sense, it is really just a lot of discovery at the time. And because I'm not a control freak, I like to see the environment around me. Every decision that I make is always based upon the current situation. Like, what needs improvement right now? Will this be a problem in the future? Like, is this a very temporary thing? Is it worth addressing? Or, is this going to be like a recurrent thing? It just depends, really. And there's
Right.
so many things now that it's always different. It's
I
always
think
different.
it's a never ending.
Mhm.
Like, I'm always looking at my business like, oh my god, I could improve in every single way. Like, there's so many things I could be doing right now, but there's just not enough time to be doing every single thing. You can make time, definitely. You can.
For
make
sure,
time.
for sure. But I also think like it's natural to feel that way when you've kind of gotten into your rhythm
Right.
and you're kind of doing the same routine thing all the time. Once monotony sets in, you're in trouble because sometimes you don't know what to change, but you need to change something.
There's something that
And
has to
so
change.
along the lines, I mean, a few years back, I was really like, I kind of feel like the fitness world, like, took me by storm, and I was like, I didn't even know how to deal with it. It made me look a little crazy. And so I did that, and then I realized
You got,
at the
what do you
time,
mean? You got into fitness, or
yeah, like in
El
my
Paso's
mind.
taking a little transition from fat to fit. Like,
Well, and
right?
I think all humanity is. I
Yeah.
really think that like there's like
There's
this
a little bit more
global
of awareness,
awakening.
yeah.
Yeah, like just a lot of it.
Mhm.
But during that time when I was just working really hard to be fit, I was also going through a lot of personal struggles. I think because there was so much pressure on me. and I learned the value of wellness and the big difference. And so I feel like I'm more fit and more happy when I'm well, when in my mind I'm at peace, and when I'm, I always have some sort of project to occupy my idle time, so that I'm not just, kind of like, oh, what next,
Yeah.
And
Being
that's
sucked
been
into
really,
the
really
social media,
great.
yeah.
But I do actively make time to work out,
Right.
and it's not always like really high intensity things. I wish I was a high intensity person, but
Yeah.
I'm not. So I mean, just different
We're not gonna
season
catch you
calls for
flipping
different
tires
things.
in the parking lot.
Are you kidding? Most of the time I wear nails, but right now I'm like, don't
Yeah.
look at my nails. So, but
No, but
yeah,
you do make a
I
point.
wouldn't be.
Yeah, I think
tired.
a lot of people think of health as in just physical, but it's really physical, mental. What you're hearing, what you're saying, what you're seeing. It's a lot of things that come into your wellness in a whole, right?
Well, and I've had the pleasure of meeting and interacting with the chiropractic world, and that has forever changed me. I learned to see, certain things as, for instance, like medications and extended use of any substance. Like if you're a person who regularly takes certain medications, the long-term effects that can have on you, and why it's so important to also become sensitive and in tune with your body.
Right.
And so I'm very grateful for all the chiropractors that I know, and that have been there to kind of give me a little bit more insight, because it really is very, very important. And I think that now with so many challenges that we're facing in the health industry, I mean,
Right.
really, I do think that our generation, I don't want to sound like all weird or anything, but I do think our generation is going to cure cancer.
Yeah.
And that the solution is going to be a lot simpler than people think.
I
And
agree.
so,
I feel like it's gonna be something that was very attainable for a lot of people, organic, or something very natural to earth and to our bodies.
well, and I don't get me wrong. I'm a technology. There's so much technology around us.
Yeah,
I appreciate
I love it.
technology.
I love it
yeah.
too.
But
I love social media.
I think it's just about finding the correct balance, because
Right.
I mean, technology in sense, like for instance, like hair, it can be really, really good for like the working artist, but then long term, you have to think about like, okay, well, what are we putting on our body, on our skin? It's like live flesh. Like maybe
Right.
the hair's not alive, but the scalp that we're putting it is. And being that we're here, I was born into like a really cool time, because I worked in the salon throughout both of my pregnancies, and around all this stuff. So I know that there's good technology in the products, but in terms of health, I do think that as a people, all of us are making long-term changes to really make like the next generation be better, just overall
Yeah.
healthier.
I think overall, just in general, the future is gonna be insane. I really want to just be like 150, 200 before I pass. I just want to see everything. I'm like, whoa,
Really?
look at all this stuff.
Well,
it's
I'm
changing.
like, just thinking of like the past 100 years, like, could you imagine someone who was alive during like that stretch?
Yeah, yeah. Like
my,
somebody in 19.
My great grandpa, my mom's dad, was born at the turn of the last century. So when he was a kid growing up, cars were rare. Like you knew cars existed, but like there were like a handful of people who had cars, and it was like, wow.
He saw
And
cars,
he
TVs,
saw-
phones.
The cell phone
Oh my God.
was like, this is the future. And like, my kids now, I mean, they've been like, they can navigate
They
through
leave the
like
hospital
nothing.
with an iPad,
Right, practically.
a phone number, and
Yeah, my
SIM
nephew
card.
was like, and I get it, like it's just the next generation, but the same way like technology moved really, really, really fast. I think that, I mean, our species is the one, not just us. I mean, globally, we see some awful tragedies, unfortunately, among other species. But I mean, we're all making changes, and we know that technology came a really, really long way. And fortunately, now in our country, at least we have access to education that helps us have a better understanding of it, so that we might find better solutions and not
For sure.
have to, completely destroy life as we know it. So
Definitely.
it's exciting times
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
alive.
for
It's
sure.
a good time to be alive.
It's a good time to be alive. You just go to your future and drink. So, being in the industry for 16 years, right? You've obviously seen a shift from the marketing sense, right? You've seen maybe from just word of mouth to now spread into social media. How has that transition been for you, and how are you currently marketing right now your business?
Okay, this is kind of a delicate subject to me, just because when social media first arrived into my world, I had just become a mom. Like literally the year I got Facebook, I had just had my first physical baby, and like I was, really excited. I was kind of like, all right, cool, and I was very like, this is how people treat Facebook. And then Instagram came just a few years later. And in those times, my family dynamic was a little bit different. And when I became aware of the privacy laws that our children might be subject to, I started seeing it as, those aren't my pictures that I'm posting. They're my kids, but those are their pictures.
Yeah.
And that sort of shifted everything for me, because I was like, well then what is me?
Right.
And I created I made a distinction between my personal life, like
Right.
my life that I associate with my children, and then my life that I associate with me, with my personal interests and things like that. And it was, it's still more of like a collage, like a, like I have a little bit of time. I'm gonna put, some images together to share with people, to let them know who I am and all that. But as a creative person, I also kind of feel like if you're just posting very, very, I don't know, just kind of like whatever, then you might be lacking a little bit of purpose. And for me, it's presented kind of a lot of challenges to also stand by my purpose, because I do think that to a lot of people it kind of, it's definitely had an effect on my life directly, because I didn't realize for a long time that it was marketing. And unfortunately, I don't like to see it as marketing. I see it as a place to connect with other people. That's really what it is. And I also see it as like a window, into the world. Like that's the world beyond, and you can see so far when you look through there. But it's kind of cool because, like, for instance, if I'm looking at your page, I'm looking through like Manny Lens, like that's where
my visual perspective
Yes.
of what I want you to see.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
'Cause I think-
really, it's what you see, and
Right.
it's all my interpretation of what
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
putting
because
out there.
social media is an opportunity for me to illustrate my own life to whatever what you want to see it. So whatever I see, correct. You're
But
gonna
it's
get
subject
your
to
own
my
perspective.
interpretation, right?
Right.
But that's my favorite element of it.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of feel like I try to be as authentic as possible online, but at the same time, to people who don't know me, I have gotten some really, really bizarre reactions
Me
from
too.
social media.
Me
Is that so?
Recently.
So, oh, well, cool.
Yeah.
It's good. Did it make you uncomfortable? Did it change you? Did you
No,
grow?
not at all. It's just I understand social media, and I really I'm so bought into social media as far as the marketing stands, because I feel like I face that same question as well. Like, maybe when I first created my Facebook profile was, who do I want people to see and what do I want to share with the world? I didn't want to share anything personal, so I just been like business. I just been business only on social media, but I think that's also helped create my brand, letting it a little personal, and I think helps people understand too that you're also human, which is important, right? And I think being human, there's a lot of things that come into place. It's not just a hairstylist. You're not just, you know.
I think it depends on your relationship with the community. I don't worry about it so much because I know that it's all subject to interpretation, and the audience could be different from day to day.
Right.
But because I see my clients regularly, maybe I don't feel the same level of pressure to maybe social media is also kind of a place to just, it's like just to put out all your thoughts out into like if you were sending it out into space, you know, like when it's just like and you're sending it out.
Because I think really, like, when I see social media, I'm only sharing what I want to do is provide value. So I'm only sharing that with the people. Well, my only care is that I'm sharing it with the people that want to receive the value, not the people that, if you're not looking for a house, this message isn't for you, you know. But yeah, you are kind of putting it into space and just like, who needs this message?
Yeah,
Who needs
if
to see this?
anybody like, here it is for you.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like,
definitely. That's cool. Well, definitely, I feel like social media has just really changed everything, especially in the last
Absolutely.
5-7 years.
And not all of the changes have been good. I don't know about you. I speak for myself. I think it has had a very powerful impact on my life in many ways. So,
Really? Yeah, I've gone through my fair share of kind of confusions or thoughts of social media, because I think it could, if you let it overwhelm you or overcome your real life, it could get very difficult for you to even kind of distinguish the difference. I think too, you know? I think some people get super caught up in what they're wanting people to think of them, and it's not really the reality, it's just what they're wanting. So yeah, social media can be crazy. I think as long as you're using it to your advantage and you're using it cautiously, you understand it, how to use it, it's definitely a tool. Talking about, you know, kind of the core things that you as an individual need. We're all humans, right? So family must be definitely important to you. You have 2 kids. Walk me through kind of what a day-to-day, typical day looks like for Mercedes.
A day in the life of Mercedes.
A day in the life. You have a
You know,
vlog.
I lead a very, what I would consider to be a common life. I wake up and I work out a little bit before the kids are up, or like kind of just get stuff ready for the day before they wake up. Once they wake up, we all start getting ready together. We'll put music on. Sometimes we'll just put on like the news and just, we're all listening like, oh, did you hear that?
Yeah.
You know? And so, and then they either go off to school, or right now that it's summer, you know, they go off to camp, and I come into the salon, and I really like that we're creatures of habit and creatures of routine, because it makes for a very stable life and everything. Right. But this is my time. The salon is like the part of life that I dedicate to it, or it's what I live for. This is what I dedicate myself to, outside of being a mother, because being a mother is like all consuming, and I kind of think that when you're raising children, that becomes such a central focus that maybe in other areas you do kind of start to suffer a little bit, and that level of detachment can be perceived by other people as being antisocial, or
Right.
being I mean anything really, just
Right.
you know,
Whatever
whatever
they wanna
people see.
prescribe you as.
Yeah. But I also think that when you're raising kids, you have to, you know, lead by example, and
Right.
know that they're going to do as you do and not as you say. And so to really just try to live the life that you were born to live. And so I know I'm always like trying to do that, but I do kind of feel like life has outgrown me a little bit. Like I never really had a vision beyond the chair until just a few years ago, and it got here so fast that I kind of feel like I'm still learning to see myself in this position.
Yeah.
Because of my children have felt the change. You know, they've been here for every part of it. I mean, they're here all the time with me, and we kind of do a lot of things for this place together. I mean, this is just as much created by them as it is by me, all through the influence of the people who come in here day to day.
Yeah.
And so, so yeah, I mean, yeah, we go to church on Sundays. We like to cook, and we like to work out together. So we like to do
That's
yoga
cool.
and running, and we
That's
like to play
awesome.
outside and stuff. But they're technology kids for
Yeah.
sure. I'm not pretending like, oh no, we just read books, no phones. They're on the
No,
phones.
they're-
They're on the phones right now. They're back here on
They're
the
pros,
phones.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
No, they come with their own instruction manual. They already know how to work everything.
Yeah, they're
How did
just
you-
like
Have you seen one of these before?
intuitive nature.
Yeah,
they just have
they,
it.
they just right away jump in the water.
Like, alright, we're okay. We gotta solve it.
Right? That's so funny. I'm really excited to just hear your story, and for people here in El Paso or viewing on Spotify, iTunes, to hear your story as well. I think your journey has come a long way, and it's still kind of exciting because you're still trying to grasp it all.
Yeah, I'm
right?
evolving.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find my footing along the way for sure.
That's
But aren't
awesome.
we all?
Yeah, we are like we don't know what we're doing. None of us know what we're doing, right?
In a
We're
certain
just
sense,
figuring it
yeah.
out,
The parts
yeah.
that we know, but then there's parts that are changing.
Yeah, definitely. But really excited for people to hear your story. I kind of like to end, wrap up podcasts with one question about El Paso. I love El Paso, being born and raised from here. I think we have amazing, sceneries. I think we have a lot of things to do, amazing food as well. So with that being said, what are some of your favorite places to eat in El Paso, hang out in El Paso, and to celebrate maybe for a special occasion?
Well, we love all the public spaces like parks. Being that we're just locals. Sometimes we want to go for a drive and go to a park that we've never been to,
Yeah.
and we meet new people. And all across town, there's all these like splash pads everywhere, and I'm like, hell yeah, this is El Paso,
Yeah.
because it's so hot here that
Yeah.
sometimes you just go, and run around
Yeah.
in it, and it's refreshing, and then
That's
you're
awesome.
around other people of the community who you otherwise wouldn't connect with. So
Everyone's friendly,
those
right?
are yeah
In
for
the
sure.
Sun City.
Everyone, it's Pleasantville for real.
Yeah.
And so that we love the public spaces, of course, like Scenic and Trans Mountain are our go-to places when we're kind of having like, we need to take a breather.
Yeah.
And right now that the season's nice, I mean, sometimes we'll wake up early and go there to see the sunrise, and then we'll go to
Nice.
Memorial Park and just go hill running because
love
it's
Memorial.
such
It's a beautiful park.
Well, I mean, if you're already in that area,
Yeah.
I think it's just like a really good place to like do like hill running because
Yeah.
it's like all the terrain and it's easy on your joints and
It's
everything.
a fun
But,
park.
yeah, as far as restaurants, my family, like Cattleman's is like another home to me,
Oh, really?
and so I think that's one of those like something that's really special to our area
That's good.
because you can make a day of it. I mean, it's a ranch and it has like just so much to see
A
and
little
everything is so
experience,
delicious. Yeah. It's definitely not an everyday place for most people. And one like our everyday places, just because it's here in the neighborhood and it's so good, we love going to Crave. Crave is like
Crave's
our
awesome.
go-to spot,
Yeah.
and I mean all the little diners around, El Parque.
Yeah.
We always go to El
So many
Parque.
local spots here that are delicious.
Yeah, and
huh?
every place you feel like you're in their world. You walk
Mhm.
into Crave and you know you're in Crave.
Yeah.
Like
Steamboats,
you feel
you're
yeah,
just like,
same
what?
thing.
Where is this?
And I mean other places around town. I mean, there's lots of like cool coffee shops. I go to Global Coffee regularly, like
Yeah.
during
Hillside
school
just opened
times.
up here,
Hillside,
too.
Tippy T's just opened. The Hive is great,
Yeah.
especially because my kids are gamers and they're a family
Yeah.
with the glitch people. So I mean, there's just so many cool
Yeah.
people around town. So yeah, I mean that.
It's a fun place to be. If
It's
you
a
guys
really
haven't
fun
been
place
to El
to
Paso, you guys need to definitely check it
Yeah.
out.
it's beautiful.
But thank you so much, Mercedes, for being on our
you for having
episode.
me.
Yeah, we've been neighbors for some time, and I'm
Yeah,
finally glad
it's-
we got to sit down.
Yeah, for sure. Me too.
Yeah, definitely. So for all of you guys watching and listening, make sure you guys tune in every single Wednesday where we have entrepreneurs, influencers, movers, and shakers, just like Mercedes. Make sure you guys tune in next Wednesday. We'll see you guys soon. So obviously family is a big factor for you here at the salon, right? So introduce us to some of your family.
Okay, so this is us. This is the entire group. This is my daughter June, and this is my son Axel. And so, if you've been in the salon, you've already met them.
Or
we
around the
have-
shopping center,
around
you
the-
see
yeah,
them.
around here.
That's awesome. So talk to me about, how is it like, what is it like hanging out with mom here at the salon? You guys like it?
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah? What's your favorite part about being here?
I like to talk to the client.
You like to talk to the clients?
Yeah, I like
Do you know a
interacting
lot of the
with them.
clients by name?
No.
No?
No.
But you know them by face?
Yes.
You recognize them?
Yes.
Yeah?
Face I'm good with.
Really?
Yeah.
What about you, Axel?
Like in our spare time, we either go outside or we just play on our phones.
Yeah. What do you guys like to do outside? What is there to do outside? Because there's like restaurants over here. There's a lot of little shopping centers, right?
Just play tag.
Tag?
Run around.
That's cool. Easy way to pass some time, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how long are you guys usually here for? What's a typical day for you guys?
I don't know. It just goes by really fast.
Yeah?
So
When you're playing tag,
Yeah,
huh?
I just lose track of time. So it feels like about, I don't know. How long would I say?
Almost like 2 hours or something.
2 hours? 2 hours of some tag. That's fun.
Well, and they're on the phones a lot.
Yeah.
They're on the phones a lot, but I mean,
'Cause
for
you're a
me,
gamer,
it's
right?
really.
You're a gamer? What's one of your favorite games?
Roblox.
Roblox?
Yeah.
Is that on the phone or is that on like a PlayStation or Xbox?
Phone.
The phone?
I
Everything's
mean,
on the
here,
phone now.
here it's on the phone. Because normally on Wednesdays, I work late Tuesday, Thursday, but this is Wednesday, and so Wednesdays are definitely one of our family nights. And I told them, I was like, guys, like it's still family night,
Yeah.
and everything that we do together. But we're gonna go home and put in our. We're gonna go put a new game. We're gonna set it up.
Yeah.
We got Rock Band to kind of be
That's cool. Rock Band's
to kind
always
of ground
fun.
this
Yeah.
game. So. Yeah, like it wasn't just about all work today. We're gonna go
That's
home and do
good.
that, and then they're on summer break, so
Oh
we have
yeah,
to
huh?
find fun things
That's
to
good.
do.
What grade are you guys in?
I'm fourth going to go to fifth.
Almost going to middle school, huh? Are you excited?
Definitely.
Yeah?
Really.
You ready to get out of elementary, you said earlier,
Yes.
huh?
Very.
All the little kids are little, huh? We're gonna take a restroom break. But pleasure meeting you guys. June, it's your birthday also, right? It's
Yes,
June
it's
right
my
now, the 25th.
Mm-hmm.
Well, happy birthday. Hopefully we'll see you before then, so we can wish you happy birthday, okay? Take care.
Cut.